Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon all. It is wonderful to see so many people here today. It is truly uplifting to see so many people here today, and I wish all of you could see what I can see. It's a fantastic turnout, and I think that is absolutely sending a message to everybody here in Australia and around the world, and most importantly to Palestine, that we are with them. Before I get into my speech, I do want to acknowledge the land upon which we are protesting. We are standing upon Aboriginal land, and I acknowledge that they are the traditional custodians of this land. And I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and to any of their elders within this amazing crowd here today. The Aboriginal people never ceded Australian land. They never ceded this territory. Just like the Palestinians never ceded Palestine. The struggle of the First Nations people in so many ways mirrors the struggles of the Palestinians. My heart bleeds for Palestine, as I'm sure all of your hearts bleed for Palestine. My heart bleeds for all of those families that have lost children and parents and grandparents. My heart bleeds for those families who go to sleep at night in Gaza and do not know if they will wake up in the morning. My heart bleeds for those parents who put their children to sleep in their beds in Gaza, in their best clothes. Why? Because they do not know if they will be killed overnight in an Israeli indiscriminate air attack. And we know that in Islam, the martyr, the shaheed, is not washed. He is buried, or she is buried as he or she is. So these parents, these families are sleeping in their best clothes because they do not know if they will wake up alive. As much as my heart bleeds, my heart also is filled and swells with pride for the amazingly brave and courageous Palestinian people who are protesting, risking their lives, fighting against the worst form of oppression. We should all be very proud of them. These are lions. They're at the front line, as the previous speaker said. They are at the front line. They are fighting the most just of battles, and they do it every single day. Every single day they are fighting that battle. They are fighting for Al-Quds. They are fighting for Masjid Al-Aqsa on behalf of the entire Islamic Ummah, the Muslim Ummah, 1.7 billion people. We owe them a debt of gratitude. And for people who are not Muslim but believe in fundamental human dignity and human rights, I know you all stand with them. They are also fighting for us. Brothers and sisters in humanity, if you just bear with me for a couple of minutes, I want to take you through something very important that sometimes gets overlooked in the emotion. And I know we are all angry and we're bleeding and we're crying and we're hurt. But what is happening now in Palestine is not isolated. This happens all the time. There is always aggression and killing of Palestinians. We need to understand the context. It's so important that we understand the context of what is happening. The Israeli side and the puppets who mouth Israeli lies and propaganda, they always want to just focus on the here and now. They want us to forget about the context and the reality and the history. Why? Because it exposes them and it shames them. It is our job to stand witness to history and not forget. Do not be fooled. So I want to take you through some of that history. Bear with me, please. It starts with the founding lie of Israel. What was the founding lie of Israel? A people with no land for a land with no people. That is the essential founding lie of the state of Israel. That is a lie. The Palestinian people lived in that land for centuries and centuries and centuries. They are the indigenous people of that land. That land was not empty, just waiting for people to come and take it over from them. Lie number two, and I may not get this in order, and I certainly won't cover all the lies. I will be here until dawn tomorrow if I did. Lie number two, the Palestinians chose to leave. The Palestinians chose to leave. They chose to willingly leave their homes, their villages that they've been there for generations, uproot themselves and put themselves into misery. They chose to do that. How does that make any sense? Why would people willingly leave their homes? That's the second lie. The Israelis who created who created Israel were heroic. They were facing an enemy that was so powerful. All of these Arab armies invaded Palestine at the time and the Israelis were besieged. That is another lie. The Jewish militias of Palestine were far better equipped, far better armed, far better trained, far better organised, far better supported than all of the Arab armies combined. That is a lie, that they were heroic. Somehow it was a miracle and God must be on the side of the Israelis and the Jewish militias because God gave the victory. That's another lie. A fourth lie. Palestinians are all terrorists. Allahu Akbar indeed. Palestinians are all terrorists and Arabs want to kill Jews. Arabs want to kill Jews, and if they had half a chance, they would throw all of the Jews into the sea. That is a pernicious lie that has perpetuated and seeped into the consciousness of the Western media and the Western psyche. That is a lie. There is absolutely no basis for this. A fifth lie. Israel is beleaguered. Poor little Israel is beleaguered. It is surrounded by hostile nations who are armed to the teeth and are ready to invade and destroy Israel. The reality is, Israel has the fourth strongest army in the world. It has one of the largest nuclear arsenals in the world. Israel is not beleaguered. Israel does not fear its Arab neighbours at all. What Israel fears is the fierce determination of the Palestinian people to seek their rights and justice. Another lie, and this has come up in the last 20 years since this so-called peace process commenced. The Palestinians don't know when to say yes. They get offered all of these amazing deals and they just keep saying no. That is a lie. What sort of a deal are they being offered? They're being offered a deal that is where they are subjugated, where they don't have control of a contiguous state, where they are ceding their sovereignty to Israel, where they have no control over their borders. Which leader of which country would ever accept that nonsense? That is another lie. Another lie. Israel does not control the Gaza Strip. Israel does not control the Gaza Strip. That's managed by Palestinians. It's managed by Hamas. That is a huge lie. If Israel controls the borders, does not allow for free entry into the Gaza Strip, controls the ports, controls the movement of people, controls the movement of goods in and out. Who controls Gaza? Who? Who controls Gaza? Do the Palestinians control Gaza? No, they don't. Israel controls Gaza. Another lie. Israel is a democracy. It's laughable, isn't it? It's laughable. Israel is a democracy according to this narrative. Israel allows for Arabs to live with dignity within the state of Israel. The Arab rights are respected. Israel is not an apartheid state. Israel is your classic apartheid state. Israel is an apartheid state. It discriminates against Palestinians every single day, all throughout Israel and the occupied territories. That is a lie. Israel's army is the most moral army in the world. Israel, according to this narrative, Israel's army is the most moral in the world, and their soldiers abide by a higher standard than all other soldiers in all other armies around the world. Is that a lie? Is that a lie? how moral this Israeli army and air force is. They say, we are so careful when we bomb Gaza, guided missiles. We try to avoid civilian casualties. How can you avoid civilian casualties when you are bombing apartment blocks and they're falling on the heads of the inhabitants? How is that targeted killings? Gaza is the most concentrated piece of territorial land in the world. If you bomb any part of Gaza, you are going to kill Palestinian civilians. How is Israel showing restraint? How is Israel being moral? Brothers and sisters in humanity, we stand here again. We've been here before. Every couple of years we have a flare-up, and we will have more flare-ups. Essentially, this struggle will continue until the world wakes up, until they stand with Palestine. This is a just cause. This is the most clear-cut case of injustice in front of us. And it is time for the world to wake up. It is time for the Australian government and other governments around the world to genuinely hold Israel to account. It is time for sanctions against Israel. The boycott, divestment and sanctions program is an amazing successful program. Why is it so successful? How do I know it's successful? Because Israel is doing everything they possibly can do to discredit it. It is the most worrying thing for them. The BDS movement is something we should all get behind. Sanctions against Israel, no cooperation with Israel. Israel must be pressured to respect the countless UN resolutions, and they must be held to account for the numerous war crimes they have committed against Palestinians over 70 plus years. We must stand with Palestine. Free, free Palestine!